Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Brothers and sisters, welcome again to another Quran study. Today we will be reading from chapter 18, verse 19. The chapter's name is called The Cave, Al-Kahf. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. When we resurrected them, they asked each other, "How long have you been here?" We have been here 1 day or part of the day," they answered. "Your Lord knows best how long we stayed here, so let us send one of us with this money to the city. Let him fetch the cleanest food and buy some for us. And let him keep a low profile and attract no attention." So this verse is about the the believers who went into the cave, and they slept for a long time, right? Like they slept for 300 plus 9 years, in total 309 years in the cave. They are awake at this moment, and they're asking each other, like, how long have you been here? Like, how long was it that we are here? They were asking, probably, after such a long sleep, maybe they had this feeling, right? Like, it was not like a planned stay. And they say, "We have been here a day or part of the day," they answered. So they think they are there for a very short period of a time, while it's very long, and not knowing that they are hungry, they want to, of course, eat something. And one of the nicest thing is here they remember God immediately, right? They say, "Your Lord knows best how long we stayed here." And then they take the money, or one of them takes the money and go. He needs to go to the city to take some food, and still they need to keep a low profile because they were being people were following them, right? They wanted to catch them, and say, "If they discover you, they will stone you or force you to revert to their religion. Then you can never succeed." So they had a very difficult time, and it was very courageous from them to stand up and to say that they were believers in only one God, and they were against the fact that after Jesus they made a God out of Jesus, right? The people, they said that Jesus was a God, and these the people of the cave, the believers, they were against that idea that there's only one God and that Jesus can't be God. And we see here that they say they will stone you or force you to revert you to your religion. So in today's world, there are countries where you can't really say what you believe in, right? Like when you say something, when you say certain things, people can you can get killed. Like it's a very dangerous thing to do. So this requires a lot of courage, of course, and they had this courage, and they were showing that courage, but they were still careful. 21. Connection with the end of the world. We caused them to be discovered to let everyone know that God's promise is true and to remove all doubt concerning the end of the world. The people then disputed among themselves regarding them. Some said, "Let us build a building around them. Their Lord is the best knower about them." Those who prevailed said, "We will build a place of worship around them." Some would say they were 3, their dog being the 4th, while others would say 5, the 6th being their dog, as they guessed. Others said 7, and the 8th was their dog. Say, "My Lord is the best knower of their number." Only a few knew the correct number. Therefore, do not argue with them, just go along with them. You need not consult anyone about this. And the footnote says, as detailed in Appendix 25, this story helped pinpoint the end of the world. So God says here, there are many verses where God, when they ask actually the prophet about the end of the world, when it's going to happen, and then he basically says, "I don't know, only God knows." And there are verses where God says, only God knows when it will occur. But there are also verses where God says, God knows, and the ones who God wants to know. And with the messenger of the covenant, one of his assignments was basically to tell us when the end of the world is going to happen. And there's a video of Dr. Rashad where he explains in detail with the evidence and the mathematical evidence, of course, the multiples of 19, where he shows clearly that the end of the world is going to happen in 2210. um, and like it's very detailed, and if you and it's actually not that complicated. That is one of the things, like when you look at the video and you look at the evidence, it's very clear when and of course to be able to say when the end of the world is, you need to understand the miracle of 19, right? Like, so it is a part of the miracle, where you look at the numbers. We have, for example, the letters which occur in 29 chapters, and then we have the geometrical value of them. This is 1709, and in the year 1709, when that ends, we are at 1710, and this is also a multiple of 19. And the difference between the what was it the 7 pairs is the 1400 plus 309, which is the day that the amount of days, sorry, the amount of years the people of the cave they slept was 309. This adds up to 1709. So, but the Messenger of the Covenant explains this in detail in the video, so it's useful to watch the video and understand where this comes from. And this information about the end of the world, this is, of course, the Messenger says it's a piece of information, it's a valuable piece of information, and God wanted us to know the end of the world. He is the one who wanted to tell us when the world is going to end, and this has to do all with the world of the end, like the amount of years that they slept in the cave. Also, one of the things what we see here is, for example, he says some would say they were 3, their dog being the 4th, while others would say 5, the 6 being their dog, as they guessed. Others said 7 and the 8 was their dog. Say, my Lord is the best knower of their number. Only a few knew the correct number. Therefore, do not argue with them. Just go along with them. You need not consult anyone about this. Like, people were saying, like, with how many people were there in the cave, right? Like, that is not real relevant. How many they were. Like, what does it matter if they were 7 or 8 or 9? Because that number is not related to anything. Like, but the amount of years that they were sleeping there, that is, of course, related. And God says, He says in the verse in 21, He says, and to remove all doubt concerning the end of the world. So that's why He is telling us no how long they were sleeping there, but how many they were, that's not, God says just go along with it. It's not really that important of an important information that we should know of. Or else God would have told us, right? Remembering God, every chance we get. 23. You shall not say that you will do anything in the future without saying, God willing. If you forget to do this, you must immediately remember your Lord and say, may my Lord guide me to do better next time. And the footnote says this important commandment gives us daily opportunities to remember God. So when God has sent to this world, He didn't just let us be. Like He guides us. He sends messengers. He sends books. He sends information. So like with that information, and it's a practical information, right? Like. This is a clear commandment of God. He says, like, if you're going to do something, He says you shall not say that you will do anything in the future without saying God willing. This is a practical thing, right? And it gives us every opportunity, because in a day we say this a lot, right? We say, I'm gonna do this and that, I'm gonna come after 5 minutes, or like there are so many things that we say about that we're gonna do things in the future. And this is a very good opportunity to remember God and say, if God wants, God willing. Because everything goes according to the will of God, and if He doesn't want something, it's not going to happen. only if he wants it, it's going to happen. And as a submitter, we need to prove that we know this, and that we accept this fact. We know that God is doing everything, we accept it. So when we say I'm going to do this, we definitely need to say God willing, if God wants. And of course it can happen that we forget this sometimes, but then God gives us information what we need to do if we forget it. And he says, you must immediately remember your Lord and say, may my Lord guide me to do better next time. Sorry. So here we get a very practical commandment of God on what to do, even when there are certain things that we are saying. Actually, and every time that we say that, when we say God willing, this helps to improve us, and then it helps us grow our souls. And there are also many other examples in the Quran, right? Throughout the day, we say if God willing, inshallah, or you see something very nice, you can say mashallah, or you can, when you see something very amazing, when you look at the sky or the sun, or the sunset maybe, or if you have a nice car, you can say mashallah or subhanallah. That type of things are very useful to grow our souls and to remember God throughout the day. It's like an important practice. Like this is also, and especially when you're a submitter, we need to set an example, right? We should be the ones who remember God all the time. And while speaking, one of the things that the mention of the covenant says, like, it doesn't matter whom you say this to, right? For example, when you have a colleague, he can be a Christian or like a Jew, or it can be an atheist. When we say certain things to them, or a customer, when we say, okay, I'm gonna come there tomorrow, we should say, God willing. Maybe some of them would find this a little bit strange, because I don't know a lot of people who are using this sentence. When I look at other people who are not submitters, like, they aren't using this actually. Most of the people don't use it. In Turkish, we have like this. This has become a standard thing actually. That's why it's a good thing. Like, people still use this. They say a lot of inshallah when they say that they're gonna do certain things in the future. They used it, maybe even unknowingly, like, because it became a habit to say that thing. Or before we eat, we say in the name of God, Bismillah, right? Like, this is been taught to us from when we are very small children. So it's some kind of a habit, but it's a very good one. Like, even that is very good to have, that you're really used to it, to say Bismillah before you ate, or when you say Inshallah every time, if you are saying that you're going to do something in the future, or that you want something to happen, God willing. Yeah, and then the message of the covenant, he also says, like, when you say this to people who are not used to it, they are going to get used to it. And like, if they are God knowing people, they would appreciate this, right? Like, they would see, okay, like, this person, when he says I'm going to do this, God willing, then you remember God, and then you help remember them as well. Like, you're not the only one who's remembering, but they too, like, you make them remember God again. 25. The title is 300 plus 9. They stayed in their cave 300 years, increased by 9. And the footnote says, the difference between 300 solar years and 300 lunar years is 9 years. Thus, discovering the end of the world was predetermined by the Almighty to take place in 1980 AD. This is 1400 after Hijrah. 300 years is 309 lunar years before the end of the world. See 72, 27, and appendix 25. Yeah, this was the thing that we were talking about before. So basically, this is discovered in the end of the world, when it's going to occur, is discovered in 1980 AD, and 400 after Hijrah. After Hijrah. So it's a fact that between 300 solar years and 300 lunar years, that there are 9 years. So all of this is and those being multiples of 19, right? Like 2280 and 1710, all related to the miracle of 19, of course. These were all signs and evidences that God has predetermined when the world is going to end. There's also one thing I want to mention here. You know, when we look at the Quran and the miracle of 19, we look at the Quran, we look at the text, we look at the numbers that God is mentioning, we look at the geometrical values, you know, and then with all this information, these are all signs to us, right? Like, and signs meaning not, these are evidences basically. It's a physical fact. It is an evidence. It's a mathematical structure, and when you have learned the mathematical miracle of 19, you get this idea of how it works, right? Like there is this pattern, there is this mathematical system that God has placed there, and you, when you understand it, you can clearly see that this is something that only God can do, and this is basically God's signature in the Quran. You can clearly see His signature. And when you read verses about, you know, like He gives us the time, 300 plus 9 years. You know, the Quran is not just it's not just a book. When God says 300 plus 9 years, increased by 9, he didn't say 309 years. He said 300 plus 9. One of the reasons is, you know, when you add up all the numbers in the Quran, it adds up, like it's a multiple of 19. So 300 plus 9 is two different numbers, then 309. So this is a small detail, but when you know the mathematical structure, you know that this is really, like, this is so amazing that when you have a huge book with so many words and letters and chapters and verses, like so much information going on, and besides all of that, you have this part where, you know, the one who wrote this book down, he says he wrote down like 300 and plus 9. Like this is not usual, right? It's making it much more difficult, actually. Like if someone wanted to decide to write a book, and then maybe a very small book, and then he decides to create this book with a mathematical structure, you know, you're going to make it extremely difficult for yourself if you even are going to use the numbers in a very different way, like in this case 300 plus 9. Like this is really amazing when you think of this, right? It looks simple, but actually when you go a little bit deep into these facts, into these numbers, how all these numbers are related to each other and multiples of 19, and besides that, this number is like, it has to do with the end of the world. The fact that it's been discovered in 1400 after Hijrah, like this is really amazing, right? And only God is possible of doing something like this. And I want to mention here that, you know, we are also talking about Apophis, the meteor that's going to hit in 2029. When we look at the numbers that are related to the meteor, and how that has a pattern and the same system, you know, that you can see throughout the whole Quran, there is also the sign of God, right? Like it is all based on the same structure, multiples of 19. Only God can do this. So that too is an evidence for us that God is controlling everything, and this is meant for us to, you know, it makes it actually easier maybe to accept that this is the meteor that we're talking about. And every time when we look at the Quran and we see the multiples of 19, this gives us confidence, and our faith in this book increases. It should increase, right? In chapter 74 verse 31, we read that you know, the believers who already believe that this book is from God, their faith is going to increase after seeing the miracle of 19. So it has a very miraculous, amazing system, that if you are a true believer in the miracle of 19, that you are going to see certain things that people who say that they believe in the miracle of 19, but actually they don't. This is basically what I wanted to say. Like, you have certain people that they say that they believe in it. When they see the same system, when they see the same things going on elsewhere, they don't accept it, because truly I believe that they don't even really accept the miracle of 19. Because if you are fair and you're like an honest person, when you see two identical systems, you should believe in both of them. Like, if you accept one is a miracle and then you don't accept the other one is a miracle while it has the same system, that's not righteous. 26. Say, God is the best knower of how long they stayed here. He knows all secrets in the heavens and the earth. By his grace you can see, by his grace you can hear. There is none beside him as Lord and Master, and he never permits any partners to share his kingship. You shall recite what is revealed to you of your Lord's scripture. Nothing shall abrogate his words, and you shall not find any other source beside it. Look, this is a very amazing verse in the Quran. Like, very clear verse where God says you only need the Quran and nothing else. No any other source besides it. But people are reading it and still, it's very difficult for them to accept the Quran as only one source. And I want to read it again. 27. It says, you shall recite what is revealed to you of your Lord's scripture. God doesn't say here you should recite from any other source like the hadith or something else. He says from the scripture. Nothing shall abrogate his words, and you shall not find any other source besides it. This is the only source that we have. And the messenger of the covenant, he says this also clearly. He says the Quran, nothing but the Quran and Quran alone. This is a very clear verse for everyone. And it's, like a good verse to use as an example that the Quran is the only source we need. Quranic study groups. 28. You shall force yourselves to be with those who worship their Lord day and night, seeking him alone. Do not turn your eyes away from them, seeking the vanities of this world. Nor shall you obey one whose heart we rendered oblivious to our message, one who pursues his own desires and whose priorities are confused. Yeah, and this is something that we really try to do throughout our days, right? Like, this is a commandment of God. He says, you shall force yourself to be with those who worship their Lord day and night, seeking him alone. So we need to force ourselves to come together and then, do the Quran studies. MashaAllah, we are doing this every week. It doesn't matter how difficult this is. God uses the word force. He says you need to force yourself. It's maybe not going to be easy in certain moments, but we need to force ourselves to do this. Do not turn your eyes away from them, seeking the vanities of this world. And one of the most important things is God says in the end, and whose priorities are confused. So, like, we need to prioritize our the priority needs to be within the studies, within the commandments of God that we need to follow. And we need to develop our daily routine around the studies and around the 5-time prayers and the commandments that God has commanded us to do, right? Those are the things that need to be prioritized, especially by us, because we need to set an example. 29. Absolute freedom of religion. Proclaim, this is the truth from your Lord, then whoever wills, let him believe, and whoever wills, let him disbelieve. We have prepared for the transgressors a fire that will completely surround them. When they scream for help, they will be given a liquid like concentrated acid that scalds the faces. What a miserable drink, what a miserable destiny. As for those who believe and read the righteous life, we never fail to recompense those who work righteousness. So there is total freedom in religion, of course. Like, anyone can decide to believe or not to believe in it, but of course in every decision there are some certain consequences, right? So God has sent us to this world because we we wanted to be tested. We wanted to see if the devil could be a certain, like, if he could be a god with a small g. We were not, how to say the right word, stern. Is it called stern? Maybe it's stern, yeah. So the angels, they were like, they didn't have doubts that only God can be God and none besides him could be God. They didn't have any doubts about that. But there were uh, certain uh, uh, um, souls that had certain um, ideas, right? Like the devil, he thought that he could be a god next to God, and those souls who are sent to this world had also the idea of maybe, okay, maybe Satan can be a god. And that's why we are here in this world, right? To see. In the message of the covenant, he tells us about this, and he gives the example that if someone says or tells you that he is a pilot, the best to know and to test if he's a pilot or not, and if he can, use a plane, is to give him an airplane. And God has done that, right? He has given this world to the devil as a plane, and he's the captain of this plane, and he says that he can be a captain and he can, use it, and then we are the ones who are sitting in the same airplane with him because we thought that he maybe could be a captain. So, but he's miserable, right? He's doing a very bad job. When we look at the world of today, the world is miserable. There's famine. People don't know who they really are. They forget about God. There's no righteousness. Like it's a very bad place. And when you compare this earth with the kingdom of God, which is perfect, everything is perfect there. You don't have even headaches, right? Like it's so such a perfect place where God is controlling everything. Of course, God controls also the world, but He has created a system to prove actually that only God can be God. And the devil actually proved us when we look at the world that he can't be a God. Actually, he already proved this to us. Um, and so there is this freedom, right? And God sent messengers and books to this world, to the people, to guide them, and then to teach them the right way. Like when we are here living in this world, we have our human bodies, but we have also our souls. And most people don't know who they really are because they think that when you ask them who they are, they would say, okay, they will point out to their bodies. But in reality, the true person is the soul, which is inside the body. And because they don't know about the fact that the soul is the true them, they forget totally about the soul, right? Everything that they do is for this world. They work for their body, they go to holiday for their body, they buy clothes and eat. Everything what they are doing is done for the body, and they are neglecting the soul totally. And because of that, the soul doesn't grow. And when the soul doesn't grow, you can't be happy, right? It doesn't matter how rich you are and how much you have earned in this world, you are not gonna be happy because you neglected your soul. So, um, what I want to basically say is when God says we have prepared for the transgressors a fire that will completely surround them, when they scream for help, they will be given a liquid like concentrated acid that scalds the faces, right? This is what a miserable drink, what a miserable destiny. So these people who forgot about their souls, who didn't end up growing their souls, they themselves wanted to run away from God, and they themselves wanted to go to hell actually. So it's not God who is putting them, but the people themselves are doing that. And all the descriptions that are given about heaven and hell is what is it called? Like when God says there is a liquid like concentrated acid. This is just to give us an example on so we can understand a little bit about how it is there, right? In reality, of course, it's different. Like it's just God is giving us explanations so we can understand that this is a very bad place. And as for those who believe and lead a righteous life, we never fail to recompense those who work righteousness. Yeah, you know, every soul is going to get what they deserve. If you are a righteous person and you end up growing your soul, of course you're gonna receive your receive the good things for the good works that you have done. And if you were a bad person and you forgot about God, then you will be forgotten at that day as well. 31. They have deserted gardens of Eden wherein rivers flow. They will be adorned therein with bracelets of gold and will wear clothes of green silk and velvet and will rest on comfortable furnishings. What a wonderful reward, what a wonderful abode. So we have here two types of destinies. One is a miserable destiny, the other one is a wonderful destiny, like a very good reward. And it all depends on your own decision, right? Like the only decision that we basically make is to be with God or not to be with, like to choose for God or not to choose for God. If you don't choose for God, you basically choose for the devil, right? When you choose for him, then yeah, like you need to, if you take the devil as your God, then you are going to be with him in the same place. And if you choose to be with God, then you are going to be close to God. Being close to God is being in the perfect place in the kingdom of God. Like it's perfect. You're going to have amazing things there. And God gives us all these examples in the Quran so we can have like a little bit of an understanding of what the differences are between hell and heaven. I forgot the exact word actually. You know, when God describes hell and heaven, it's like meant for us to understand with our worldly minds, right? Like we live in this world, this three-dimensional world where we see certain things and feel certain things, and when God tells us, it gives us information about the hereafter. It's basically, when someone is blind. And they were being blind when they were born, it's like almost impossible uh, to tell that person the difference between red and yellow, right? It's impossible for them. But you can give certain examples. When they may be blind, but if they can smell or feel certain things, maybe you can give them two types of smelly things, maybe a spicy thing, and then you would say, okay, this resembles red, and then something soft and fresh, you can say, okay, this resembles green. Then that person would understand, okay, like these are two different things with two different tastes and smells, like, and then maybe that person can imagine a little bit, okay, red and yellow, like different things from each other, but not truly understand, of course. Like to truly understand the difference within these corals, you need to be able to see because it's directly related to the eyesight, to your eyes. No, not metaphorical. Is it a metaphor what God uses? It was something else. 32. Property as an idol. Cite for them the example of two men. We give one of them 2 gardens of grapes surrounded by date palms and placed other crops between them. Both gardens produced their crops on time and generously, for we caused the river to run through them. Once after harvesting, he boastfully told his friend, I am far more prosperous than you, and I command more respect from the people. Okay, he's boasting about his the stuff that he has, right? His properties. When he entered his garden, he wronged his soul by saying, I do not think that this will ever end. Moreover, I think this is it. I do not think that the hour, the hereafter, will ever come to pass. Even if I am returned to my Lord, I will be clever enough to possess an even better one over there. His friend said to him, as he debated with him, have you disbelieved in the one who created you from dust and from a tiny drop, then perfected you into a man? As for me, God is my Lord, and I will never set up any other God beside my Lord. So, here God gives us an example of two people. One, has like, he has these gardens and everything, and he's boasting about it as if it is because of him, right? Most people, when they're successful and they have earned certain things, they think that they earned it because of their own talents, because of their own hard work, right? And then they're boasting about it, like being so successful. But God tells us, and we know, of course, everything is from God. Everything is predetermined, predestined. Everything that you're going to earn, to eat and to drink, it's already been predestined by God. So it's not because of our own talents or the success or the decisions that we are making. It's all because of what God has decided for us, right? And we see here a person who has like so many materialistic, worldly things, and he's boasting about it and thinking that he's going to, earn more respect of the people because he has all these things. And today, in our today's world, a lot of people, they get respect because of what they have. When you have a very rich person, and then people are, because people think that because that person has a lot of uh, materialistic things, and he has money and power, that he can do certain things. But when you believe only God is in power and he's doing everything, then you have only one God. You don't idolize other than God. But we see here a person who is idolizing the materialistic things that he has. And he says, moreover, I think this is it. I do not think that the hereafter will ever come to pass. So he's in such a psychological mind, where he thinks that the hour is not going to come to pass. And he says, even if I am returned to my Lord, I will be clever enough to possess an even better one over there. So um, like, this is also very strange. Like, he's saying, okay, even if that's going to happen, I am going to be so clever enough to find my way there. Like, maybe this is even a thought that a lot of people have, that they think, okay, in this world I'm going to do whatever I want, and when I die, I will see what's going to happen. Maybe I can talk to God, or maybe, like, I found my way in this world, being so clever and earning so much money and being so successful. When I die in the hereafter, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to be clever enough to find a way. But like, this is, in my opinion, it's very stupid. Like, this shows a big stupidity, because if you're smart, you would understand and think about certain things. Like, see that when certain things are happening, this is without your control. There are so many things in our world that we don't control anything at all. Of course, God is the one who's controlling. But when you look at your life, you can connect the dots, right? Like, something happens, and after 1 week something else happens, and then you can connect certain things that are happened before with each other, and then you have this result. And if that one thing didn't happen, or it happened in a different way, the result would be different. So, and like, the world is being controlled by God, the people are being controlled by God, the weather is being controlled by God. Sometimes, when uh, you plan to go outside, but then it rains, and then you decide not to go outside, right? Because when you go outside, you could decide to go to a restaurant, or to meet a certain person, and then talk with him, make certain decisions, and all those things are going to change change your life, right? Like, every small decision is changing your life. So but the rain is being controlled by God. So, and the messenger gives also an example of this one, where he says, like, I decide to buy a plane ticket to Egypt, for example, and then he decides to change it. But in reality, you are not the one who is deciding that. It's God who is deciding everything. Like, all these small things that we think that we decide is actually not true. We don't decide anything at all. The only thing that we decide is to decide to be with God or not to be with God. If you decide to be with God, then of course your destiny is going to be writ, like, it's going to be in that certain road. And if you decide not to be with God, to be with the devil, then you're going to end up in hell. So basically, it's your own fault. His friend said to him as he debated with him, have you disbelieved in the one who created you from dust, then from a tiny drop, then perfected you into a man? And this was basically what I was talking about. Like, then we have here the other guy. He actually gives an example of rightful thinking, right? He says, have you disbelieved in the one who created you from dust, like you're being created from the dust, then from a tiny drop, then he perfected you into a man, like everything that, like you didn't create yourself, you were just a tiny drop, you were just dust. Then he made you this human being with hands and legs, and like you're walking in this world. It's not because of you, it's from God. He is the one who created you, he is the one in full power. So why are you boasting about the things that you have? Like to this is like a very reasonable thinking. And as submitters, we need to think in this way. Like we should not forget that everything that has been done by God. As for me, God is my Lord, and I will never set up any other God beside my Lord. So he understands that, okay, this person is setting up others as God, like in this case himself, his own talents, or the things that he earned, his worldly materialistic things, which eventually going to end, right? Like when you die, you leave everything behind. Nothing is, you don't take anything with you. So, and knowing that you are going to die, and everyone knows this, every person in this world knows that they are going to die one day. So, telling them that you're going to leave everything behind. And we had, like, for example, in Egypt, right? Like the pharaohs, they were taking all these gold and everything, and now after thousands of years, we are digging up, and then seeing all these materialistic things in their caves. They brought it to their caves, but what happened? It stayed there. They didn't bring it to the other world. It's also a good example, to see how, it's very stupid actually, thinking that you can bring materialistic things to the hereafter. Important commandment 39. When you entered your garden, you should have said, this is what God has given me, mashallah. No one possesses power except God. La quwwata illa billah. You may see that I possess less money and less children than you. My Lord may grant me better than your garden. He may send a violent storm from the sky that wipes out your garden, leaving it completely barren, or its water may sink deeper out of your reach. Indeed, his crops were wiped out, and he ended up sorrowful, lamenting what he had spent on it in vain, as his property lay barren. He finally said, I wish I never set up my property as a god beside my Lord. And in today's world, so many people trying to be successful, and trying to create these companies and earning so much money, and then like this is a way of setting up the property as a god beside God. So it's important to remember God all the time, and then say, everything that God has given us, in even the smallest things, right? Like we should find these excuses to remember God all the time. For the smallest things, we need to say mashallah, and know that all power is only with God. He is the one who creates everything. He's the one who makes the decisions, and everything goes according to his will. It's very important to accept this and know this. Because if the person doesn't know and doesn't believe that God is doing and running everything, then this person doesn't really know God. And if you don't know God, you don't really believe in him. And the only way to be saved is to know God and to remember God, right? And if you don't know God, like, you're not going to be saved. We need to know God. We need to know his qualities. And one of the most important one is that God is running everything. He is doing everything. We need to say this all the time, right? God is doing everything. God is running everything throughout the day, because this is going to help us remember God, but also help us not setting up idols next to God. With this, God willing, I will end. If I have made any mistakes, may God forgive me. And if you brothers and sisters have anything to add, or any questions regarding to the verses that we have read, please go ahead. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Yeah, I wanted to, maybe talk a little bit about verse 19. We were saying, like, how long have you been here? We have been here one day, or part of the day, they answered. We have been here one day. Like, they So from this, I understand that they don't have, of course, any clue, right? They're clueless about how long they have stayed there. And if I'm not mistaken, there was this verse where God tells us that, uh, like, is a few verses before where the angels were turning their bodies. Yeah, to the right and to the left, or like, yes. Oh, as they slept in the follow. This is okay. Okay, okay, maybe. Mm-hmm. We turned them to the right side. Oh, he said we turned them. We turned them to the right side and the left side while their dog stretched his arms in their midst. Oh, okay, it was not the angel. Okay, so because God says we turned them to the right. Yeah, we turned them. That's why I was thinking. Okay, so like this is also amazing, right? Like you sleeping in a cave for 309 years. Of course, God is capable of doing everything. Um, yeah, but God has a system. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a miracle, but yeah, yeah, hmm, yeah. It's a that God took their bodies and then it was being preserved somewhere and then put back, right? Their bodies were definitely there, and because people couldn't enter the cave, sleeping there, yeah, stopped. Hmm. Hmm. And you have sometimes people who are in a coma when they are sleeping for maybe 10, 20 years, and then they wake up, and for them maybe it was just an hour, right? If you would ask them how long you were sleeping, they would also say the same thing, like, oh, it was just 1 day or 2 days. Then they are in a shock when they learn it's like been 10 years or 20 years. And also in the hospitals, when you have people who are in a coma, also their bodies are being turned every time, like to the right, to the left. They are being done certain things. So it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, and especially at that time, right, when you don't have these hospitals and people who can, I imagine, for example, if someone in that in those years would end up in a coma, he would be maybe buried, right? Like, what do you think? Because I, I can't really imagine someone who's gonna go into a coma in those years, and then because there aren't these technological things, right, at that time. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Years. They slept like 3 centuries, and they woke up, and people said, "Yeah, let's build a place of worship around them, etc." And this and that. So people did think that they were extraordinary people in some way. There was something special about them. That's why they were saying that. But still, they didn't end up, giving up the Trinity. I mean, the natural result of these people being discovered after 300 years should be to abolish the Trinity. I mean, they realized, uh, but it doesn't seem like it ever happened. It's like, these people continue on. as if nothing happened. Just like people have a miracle and they see it, and then they just
They knew their story.
nothing. Yeah.
They knew their story, right? The people knew that they couldn't enter the cave. They knew that there were people sleeping there. And most probably, when they went to the cave, I can imagine that, people have maybe written something about them or told each other about
Yeah.
what happened at that time.
Yeah, but also 300 years is a long time.
Those people wouldn't have been alive. Like somehow they had to, like the original people that they fled from. So
Yeah.
somehow they were discovered. Now I have a question: is it from a hadith? I don't know where I heard this from, but it's not in the Quran that I'm aware of. But I heard that one of them, it was like one of the coins or something that someone used. Excuse me. Uh, Oh, it's a movie, yeah. Like when they use the coin, they were like, "Oh, their coins." Oh, but even that still doesn't make sense because we have like 300-year-old coins today that people possess, and it doesn't mean that they're 300 years old. You know?
Yeah, but I mean, it does say, let us send one of us with this money to the city, right?
Right? Maybe they
So,
changed something or
so
something.
yeah. So I mean, if they have some kind of money, I'm assuming that it may have some marking that shows that it's for a certain king or whatever.
That every time when a new king comes, they
Yeah.
put their own money in because this one is like money from
Mhm.
so much time ago. They were
Yeah.
using, but God didn't give us the information about exactly about that, right? He was.
Yeah, but I mean, no, but it says here, let us send one of us with this money to the city. It says with this money. So
This money.
naturally,
That's,
if they're taking the
interesting.
money, it's gonna be different 300 years after. It's not gonna be the same. And when you go with that money, naturally, people are
Yeah,
like,
and
no, it's
especially
not from here.
right, you're
Some
trying to
some
pay
other
this.
time. Yeah. Like it's like me, like even if let's say if I'm in the U.S. and money is still the same, and it's like I have 1 cent in my pocket, I want to get 3 burgers, like can I get three
Yeah,
burgers?
I would think you're from Back to the Future or something, like Marty McFly.
Yeah, I mean that alone, that alone. But obviously the money would have changed significantly over that. We're talking about 3 centuries, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of time.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I also find it.
Not if
Talk
you're
the same
not
thing.
if you're asleep.
Hmm?
Not if you're asleep. You
Yeah,
understand?
but I mean for the money to have changed
Yeah.
significantly over 300 years, right? It's gonna not look anything like what they had.
It was silver, right? Silver, I think, or gold.
We don't
Yes,
know.
something like that, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah, they didn't have paper currencies until they didn't have paper
Yeah.
currencies at that time. But yeah, I thought the same thing. Like kind of same as Brother Suleiman touched on. Like the first reaction is almost seems like an act of idol worship. I mean, I'm not saying like maybe it's bad to build a place to worship around them because maybe you could look at that place as being blessed by God or something. Sorry, excuse me. But
As a remembrance, right?
But yeah,
what happened, what God is capable of.
right. But still, like the first instinct wasn't like it was just immediately almost. It almost it's like seems like idol worship in a way because like they're not. They fail to I guess get the message. Because they still end up the Trinity still went on after this time.
When you look at the movie, I don't know if you guys have watched the movie, but when you look at the movie, it's not talking
What's
about
it called?
people. What do you mean? The people
What's
of the
the name
cave.
of the movie? Oh,
The people of the cave, yeah.
is it
Ashab
where?
al-Kahf.
Is it like who created? What country?
Persian. It's Iran.
Oh,
Yeah, so when you look at the movie, brother, like it's not about Jesus. It's about the Romans and them having like multiple gods, and then you
Mhm.
have these the believers, they are against them, you know.
Mhm.
And then in the end of the movie, they wake up, and then this guy who took the money and went to the city, he sees that the city is changed, and these people have made statues out of Jesus, and then they were like worshiping Jesus a little bit, and then he
And the
says, "Yeah,
and
I
I think,
yeah."
yeah, I think what I found most interesting about the movie is that the people of the cave were speaking Farsi.
They were speaking Farsi, yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I haven't seen it, but I'm
It
assuming
should
it's
be it should be
Farsi.
Turkish. It should be Turkish, brother. They were uh, yeah, they have the same thing about Prophet Joseph, right? Like
Yeah.
it's also Persian. But then
Yes,
in
the
the end,
Persian
this
people in our
guy.
group, they will say like,
Mhm.
yeah, because they used to speak Farsi before.
Uh, and but where did because we learned this from the Message of the Covenant, right? That they were standing against the Trinity. This was something, they stood up against the Trinity
Hmm.
and not against the Romans, the Roman
Right.
gods. Because in the movie they stand up against the Roman gods, but in the Quran and from the Message of the Covenant we learn it's not about that. It's about those people having made Trinity, you
Oh,
know.
right, right. So yeah, so meaning what are the Roman gods are like some weird entities? Because the Romans
Yes,
were Christians.
in the movie, they were like in the movie. You have the Romans, and
Uh
these
huh.
believers. They are the children of important people in the Roman country. Let's say in
Uh
politics,
huh. Uh huh.
and then they end up fighting against their gods, and they say we don't accept you as a god, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have all these statues of
Mm-hmm.
these Roman gods, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Yeah.
totally false in this case.
Hmm. Right. So I think this is the information that, mashallah, we know from the Messenger of the Covenant.
Yes.
But the Muslims, the so-called Muslims, the Mohammedans, I mean, they don't have that knowledge, right?
Hmm.
And it doesn't specifically mention the Trinity, but it would be common sense for them to know that. I mean, if they go back in history and realize that, yeah, around that time frame, Christianity was, very popular, and
Hmm.
these people had to be Christians. I mean, that's what we learn from history.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, they weren't like worshiping other entities. They were Christians.
Yeah, but so in the last study, I remember we were talking about the time periods, like 300 and plus 309 years.
Mm-hmm.
Where did they end up in, like estimation? Like, was that close to the year 600?
It was 325 AD, I think was the Council of Nicaea, but
Mm-hmm.
we have reports like it's as early as 70 years after, the year zero, I guess, when they started the Gregorian calendar after Jesus's death. Sorry,
Departure.
yeah, but like up to it was about 70 years. Like they already started, the reversions have already began, and then like it became widespread when Constantine,
Hmm.
changed it, and then it just became like more perverted with time.
Okay, so
That's so where so Paul would where does Paul lie in this? Like,
is
So
Paul
Paul,
not
so
after
Paul,
200
so
years?
Paul, yeah,
200 years?
Paul never even met Jesus. He was he. I think of him as the Antichrist because like literally that's
no,
what
I mean in
everybody's
terms.
worshiping today is they worship Paul and his teachings. Like today's Christianity is referred to
Yeah,
as the Pauline version
yeah,
of
yeah.
Christianity.
But I mean, like in terms of the timeline.
He came after Jesus' death, Paul.
200 years after him or not?
No,
Or not?
no, no. He was still around when the
Close to.
disciples and the apostles were around, and they all, the church left us out the Bible, because we only have
Uh-huh.
the canonical books, but like there's letters between Peter and Paul, because and
Mm.
they bear
Right.
witness that like you never even met Jesus.
Right. So the Son of God thing was around when Paul obviously started
Was still
that,
alive.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then, but then,
Paul really started it. Yeah,
right, but then these people turned it into Trinity.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, Paul told Paul we said to abolish the law, do away. He said doing good works is like bad, and just basically believe,
Yeah.
have blind faith. He said Jesus was cursed. He said the law was cursed. I mean, this is in the Bible, and like you
Hmm.
tell Christians, and they literally follow. They almost like worship Paul, like he's
Uh-huh.
God pretty much. But yeah, it came after, and then they like took what he came, and then they ran with it. And then also, Paul wasn't. He was Saul, and he was like the head murderer of all the Christians. Like he
Uh-huh.
would burn them. And I
Uh-huh.
mean, this is like in the Bible.
Uh-huh.
And then his vision on the road to Damascus, which he writes about, like when he was on the way persecuting
Brother, I
Christians.
wanna I wanna ask something. So, in the time of Jesus, he didn't had a lot of followers, right? He had only 12 followers, and
Right.
then he died. And like, how long? Like for me, it's a little bit strange to believe that a whole country or like so many people started believing in Jesus within like 20, 30 years or like 40 years when Paul, like, is this like I'm imagining that after the death of Christ, it didn't go that fast. Maybe it took 200 years or 300 years for like a huge society to believe that in Jesus, and maybe, and then you have the
Pretty much
community.
right. I mean, yeah, he didn't have a big following, but it was as early like the neo Christians were as early as 70 AD, where they started worshiping him. But it wasn't like as widespread. But I mean, this is like around the time after Jesus departed that Paul came into the picture. I mean, literally, a lot of the New Testament, if you look at all the corruption, it's literally written all by him, and then he had many followers too. And then supposedly he was he was like secretly working for the Romans, or well, we know this. So he was actually amongst the Jews. He was a Pharisee. He was either a Pharisee or Sadducee, and like his name was Saul, which is a common Jewish name, and like he was leading the persecution of the Christians, and then he like while in the middle of like chasing them, and this is in the New Testament. I mean, there's also historical records about this, but a white light appears to him. Like, I mean, imagine, like, do you think God or like Jesus, like he claims, he said Jesus appeared to him, and then that's when he converted or changed. But he gives different accounts of these stories, like three different accounts. So, like, also his inconsistencies, prove that like he's dishonest. And I mean, um, sorry, uh, yeah, my throat is a little backed up this morning.
And we know that when people die, when they are alive, they are not popular, but when they die, people start making them popular as well. We can see this from, for example, politics, because when that person is dead, you can make up more lies about that person, because if he's alive, he can say that it's a lie. First of all, he can say no, that's not true. Second of all, if you, for example, say, okay, that person could fly, and if he is still alive, people would ask, okay, go and fly, show this to us. But if that person is dead, like that person can't do those things anymore, and maybe it's easier for people to believe in those certain things. You have the same thing, maybe the same phenomenon about artists, painters. Like you have so many, like in the Netherlands, for example, Van Gogh is an example. This guy was very poor, but after he died, like his paintings became like one of the most expensive paintings in the whole world. So you
Yeah.
can become fat. You can become popular faster if you're dead. Maybe I'm not
Right.
sure.
Yeah, that's true. Like a lot of artists, it's not until like Vincent Van Gogh and stuff. It's not until
Mm,
after they die that
yes.
people. But I mean, yeah, it was the same. It was the same thing. I mean, really, Satan was behind it. But like, I truly believe, when people, like when the Book of Revelations talk about the Antichrist, I like 100%, or like 99%, I'll say, is I understand it to be Paul. Because if you look at the millions of Christians who have died as idol worshippers, I mean, past 40, who are still idol worshiping today, like literally, it's all like they're all going off of Paul's teachings. I mean, and he's the one who started, and he was like the poison. I mean, Peter, the disciple Peter, all of Jesus' close followers, they all, uh, there's letters between them that the Vatican still has. They won't. They somehow got released, but these are like historical documents that have been dated and fact checked. But like you can see, there was huge disputes, and they disowned him and said, you're doing the work of Satan and stuff. And there was huge. And eventually, a lot of the disciples were tracked down. Like James and Peter, and they were killed. Uh, I mean, like we also have verses in the Quran that talk about how the referring to the Jews who killed the prophets. Because I mean, these were Jesus came to the children of Israel. So I mean, and they I mean, you can see they even attacked him before God raised him to him. But yeah, if you look at like what their own prophecy talks about, how like hundreds of millions will be deceived. I mean, into idol worship. That's literally what we're seeing now, but they fail. They're still waiting. Like that's still we see that happening. Most Christians. I mean, for thousands of years, basically, well, a couple thousand at this point, have all worshipped the false Christ. Basically, they're not worshiping God. They're worshiping everything anti-Christ. Basically, everything anti-Jesus came from Paul and started with Paul. The messenger talks about it. If you also read the books, the myth of God incarnate, and the other one, I think the myth maker, you can see Paul is the author of Christianity. Like Christians today, they don't follow the Christianity Jesus taught. This is a fact. They follow the Pauline version.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to show them, they're like, they just always run back to the verses about Paul said this. Paul was like, what about Jesus? What did Jesus say? And they just, I don't know, they believe whatever they're going to believe.
There's also this red Bible, right, where you see the words of Jesus in red, and it's just so less.
Mm-hmm.
Right, brother? There's this book, the Bible, the red Bible, they call it, I think.
It sounds. I know there's a Jefferson, like Thomas Jefferson. Well, you probably don't know him,
No.
but he
There's also a Trump Bible.
He wrote himself?
Yeah, he wants to be the. He wants to be the Messiah.
Yeah, I think it's $100 or something.
Yeah, he wants to.
Yeah. Anyways.
It's $100 too. They're charging that much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the word, brother. Yeah, I wanted to say allegorical. That was the word I was searching for. When God describes heaven and hell, he's using allegorical things, right? And it's not metaphoric, because metaphoric means something else. It's something that doesn't exist at all. You're trying to explain something, but you're trying to explain in a way, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong.
What, metaphorical?
A metaphor, yeah, metaphorical. The difference between metaphorical and allegorical.
A metaphor is a figure of speech or a phrase that is
It's a
applied
way.
to
Yeah.
an object or an action to which is not literally applicable. Like
Hmm.
Like I'm as
like
hungry as
like
I could eat
like
a whole horse or something.
yeah, yeah. Or
Yes.
someone is eating their brains out or something like that. It's a
Yes.
figure of
Yes. Yes.
speech.
Yeah.
Yes. But when God describes certain things about heaven and hell,
Yeah.
this is I don't know if the example of a blind person was a good. Maybe the messenger also used the same example. You can't really tell,
What
or
an example of a blind person?
a blind person. To tell a blind person what is the difference between red and green. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't really tell that person how you can
Mm-hmm.
really explain it to him, but
Mm-hmm.
you can use the things that he has. For example, if that
Mm-hmm.
person can feel certain things with his
Mm-hmm.
fingers and hands, or maybe he can use his nose to smell certain different type of
Mm-hmm.
smells or
Yeah.
food, right? Like taste.
Yeah.
You can say, okay, like both are different.
Yeah, I
So
like the
you're
example.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
red,
yeah, like
spicy.
Mm-hmm.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. So I want to request, like, maybe if we can change the focus a little bit from like getting into these different things, like technical terminologies and stuff, and maybe focusing on like how these verses are applicable to us, or how we can relate to them and what we learn from them. Also, I think that would be also an interesting part of the discussion that a lot of us can relate with, and God willing,
Mm.
learn from. What do you guys think?
Yeah, like you mean when God, yeah, that we think about, okay, how can we imply all these examples that God is giving in the
Yes.
Quran?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like based on the verses we read. I mean, how what do we learn from it? Like, I mean, we talked a lot, for example, about the story, which is, of course, also important, right? Like, we need to understand these things in depth. But I also want to, bring our attention to like
Verse
the
28.
lessons behind. Yeah.
I think verse 28 sticks out to me. I was listening uh to something the other day. I mean, it should. I mean, I think the more we grow our souls, like the easier it gets. But I mean, like also at the same time, it isn't like always like what I'm saying is not just like a piece of a cake. Like we actually have to make effort and put forth effort. Because sometimes we could might be a little tired or something. Uh, but like it's still better. I mean, even that we could think about, like, even if we're a little tired or running low on sleep, it's still good, like in a way, to force ourselves, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what the verse is saying. It's saying force yourselves. It doesn't saying, well, if you're a little bit tired or something, you could take a
You can
break.
skip.
Uh, yeah, yeah, because I mean, like, really, in the context of the hereafter, it all adds up. So, and then plus the benefit, the amount we learned, the amount I've learned, I think, uh, in the past 5 years. I mean, really, in preparing, it prepares us to pass admission tests. It prepares us. Uh, I mean, even if we mess up in some areas of life or tests, God is the most merciful. I mean, we always have another chance, and we continue to learn. It's a lifelong process, and like when we hear other people's inputs, we could hear things that, I mean, even if like things I've heard from Brother Suleiman or Brother Jaffer over the years, really it's coming from God. That's how I've always understood it, because it's, I heard something like, I think 3 years ago, and I even like wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
I think Suleiman was teaching, and it was really important. And it was actually a study I was re-listening to. I think this was about 2.5 years ago. But I mean, the amount of benefit, uh, it's for our own benefit. Like we understand, it's not something we should feel obligated to do. Like it's something we should want to do. And sometimes it may be a little challenging and stuff. But that's what makes it part of, like, why the verse implies, like, you have to force yourself, because it's not always going to be like so easy,
Hmm.
hence forcing yourself, So it's we have to. There is going to be effort, and it's not always going to be like the easiest thing.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I mean also on that note, mashallah, like I want to say like how like how we found the format of the Quran studies that we follow to be so beneficial in this way, because it allows us to get an in-depth perspective in like a very sequential way, in a very focused way, like when one person is teaching, like at first, like when I was introduced to this concept, like like some things that came to my mind was like, okay, well, you have a teacher, and then you have other people, and maybe like it's the same, could be the same thing where like one person can maybe say wrong things, and teach the wrong things and stuff. And all these ideas, I had mixed ideas, and of course other people who were introduced to this thing, also raised like similar concerns. But now that we have been practicing it for so many years in this online study, and as we've seen the Messenger of the Covenant, have the same format in their Quran studies. Comparing that to other Quranic studies where people have other formats, I mean, it's to me, it's like an astronomical difference. And for other people who are listening, for example, I mean, like there are groups, for example, where you go and like submitter groups I'm talking about, right? And they will have Quranic studies where people will sit and they'll go around the room. Let's say there's 30 or 40 people or maybe 50 people in the mosque, and they will all take turns and read like two verses each, sometimes even one verse each, or five or six verses at the most, and they just go in circles, until someone just wants to make one small comment, and or two, and then they go back to reading the verses, and they go around in circles for like 1 or 2 hours, and like the whole study, you're not able to really focus, because as you're going to the study, everybody's concerned about, okay, where this person stop, where am I supposed to read until, instead of focusing on a story. And even if someone had to explain their verses, sometimes, in some formats you would see like people will read some verses, and then everybody who reads some verses may be asked to say something or explain the verses they read, and it's like all discontinued, disjointed, because everybody just reads a small subset of verses. So without having the context of what happened before or what happened after, it's sort of very chaotic and very shallow, in my opinion, as compared to a dedicated format where one person is dedicated as a teacher for that study alone, not for every study, of course, right? It circulates, and that allows us to, one, listen to the other person's perspective in detail, you know because then, we've always also had studies where, for example, people will go around in circles and they'll read five verses each, and they'll go around the room and read 2 pages, and then people will talk about it for 40 minutes, right? But then, just as we have the discussion, right, very easily, like, people can skip a bunch of verses, not say anything about them, and just go off topic, etc. And it doesn't really help you understand it in the same manner as if one person is reading them from, like, start to end and explaining them as they're reading them. And it makes more sense. It's like God is teaching you in this way, as if you had a real teacher teaching you, right? And that's you're following that idea, right? If you have a teacher, imagine if you go to a class and the teacher asks each student to read one or two sentences from the book, and then every student has to explain small parts of it here and there, So, it's really, not a very smart concept, to want to, study the Quran this way. And so, mashallah, I'm glad that we have this format and we learn in this way. And I've seen other people, sometimes will join our studies just because of this reason. They like our studies because
Mhm.
we follow a format where we can go in depth and talk about those things rather than going off topic too much and just like talking about our personal opinions and whatnot. Um, so
Brother,
mashallah, yeah.
yeah, they were also, but they left, of course, the group. What they were doing, the Persian version,
Uh huh.
they were doing like very fast and a lot of verses. Like they didn't had only 2 pages. What they were doing like 10 pages or yeah, it was
Oh
like
wow.
very quick, fast, and talking and talking. Yeah, it was very fast. I had this feeling, at that time, but it was very
Uh-huh.
new, so I couldn't
Uh-huh.
really understand. But
Uh-huh.
eventually, afterwards, I understood. It's basically to be able to say, oh, we did the Quran study within 6 months, we finished the Quran, or we did the whole
Uh-huh.
study from beginning to the end in 3 months. Like
Right.
it's like
Show
it's a
off.
race. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's a
it's a show off.
race.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
show off. I mean, it
Yeah,
sounds like it.
it's funny. It's interesting too, because like that almost I don't, it doesn't even make sense. Like how would that? I know they're showing it off and they're boasting, but the fact that they think that is something like boast like boast worthy. Like I can have more understanding for someone who like is a multimillionaire and then boasts of his wealth. You know, like because you see, but like reading a book fast. I mean, anybody can do that. Like this. That's
Yeah.
that's kind of like saying like, oh, I jumped 2 feet in the air, and you start boasting to everybody, and they're looking at you like, okay. Like where if a multi-billionaire, more people might be like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, like he's rich and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's so wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a
Hmm.
reflection. I guess it was a reflection of their priorities and what they really worship.
Yeah. It's like someone.
Instead of getting substance from the Quran
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
understanding, it's just show off.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
That's a
Yeah.
new one. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And how did you find out that they were doing that?
Oh, I was. Uh, I entered the study one or two
Uh
one
huh.
one time. I think I entered the study, brother. This was the you remember
Uh
the
huh.
Persian one? Yeah.
Uh
One time
huh.
I just entered to see.
Oh.
I checked on YouTube.
Uh huh.
I was watching on YouTube. Yeah.
Uh huh.
Maybe it was a competition. Like there's things called
Yeah.
speed. There's things
No,
called speed running. Like how
we
fast you
we
can beat a video
we
game, and like there's real competition.
we spoke
It's
we
almost like
spoke
that.
but and we spoke about it. I asked him about. I said like and he said we don't have a limit. I said we just talk about it and then we go. We don't set any limits to ourselves. Like we just start and then go very fast. If you guys can remember, he was also reading very quickly. We actually, in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, Brother Suleiman and
Uh huh.
even I was telling him, like, you need to slow down. Like,
Oh, I
you're
didn't
going.
no idea they were doing that. I would have told them.
No, no, no. It was not. No, even the English studies, when it was their
Oh.
turn,
Uh
he was
huh.
going very fast. And I
Uh huh.
remember even I was sending him messages, and you also told him that, like,
Mhm.
you're going too fast. Just, like, it's not, we are not in a
Mhm.
hurry.
Oh,
It's
Uh
just,
huh.
who was this?
yeah.
Was
And
this
this was, oh,
what was
Brother
his name?
Suleiman, I remember Brother
Mhm.
Suleiman. In the
Uh huh.
beginning, it's very good you mentioned about the studies, brother. In the
Uh huh.
beginning, if you remember, we didn't had a limit for the amount of verses that we were reading. So it was basically we start where we ended, and then we would go
Mhm.
on, and we didn't had the 40 minutes limit. It was like estimated wise, like around 40 to 1 hour, something like that.
Mhm.
Then we said, okay, we should do
Do two
two.
pages.
We changed to 2 pages, and that's it. So I
Mhm.
can, I already can prepare my study. I don't have to wait,
Mhm.
for someone to
Right.
finish his study.
Mhm.
So
Right.
yeah, that was that moment in those times when there was no
Uh
limit,
huh.
and he was reading and reading and reading very
Uh huh.
fast. So yeah, that
Mhm.
was also a point.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's the structure, not even so much that there's like a quote unquote imposed limit. It's the same. It's just structure. Like with anything that's I think good is gonna have a meaningful structure. So
Hmm.
just like you're not gonna eat food without limits. I mean
Yeah.
there's for him to use that as a basis. of why it was okay. Like, oh, don't do without limits. Like, doesn't mean it's always a productive thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and brother Suleiman, I also want to add something about the part where you said the technical stuff. So I really
Uh-huh.
understand, like I understand what, when we are reading the Quran, we need to focus on, okay, like uh, how are all these verses that we are reading also the technical ones, because God speaks about 300 plus 9 years. The measure of the covenant explains why it's 300 plus 9, what's the difference, what is it related to, etc. One of the things that came to my mind is chapter 74 verse 31, right, where what does this miracle of 19 do, like what is the purpose of 19, is to, of course, expose. And one of the things was, and I mentioned this in the study as well, is to strengthen the faith, of those who already believe in this book, that this is from God, right? Like when you look at 19, your faith is going to be strengthened. Your is going to be leveled up, because right now you have a physical evidence, instead of like it, you don't only believe in this book that it is the word of God, but you
Mm-hmm.
also know that it is from God because of this mathematical miracle, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in the Quran, there are certain things, brother. Like for example, I wanted to ask, like, if we can talk more about 300 plus 9,
Mm-hmm.
not mostly for ourselves, but we shouldn't forget that there are other brothers and sisters that are
Yeah,
watching the
309
studies on
is,
YouTube.
yeah,
No,
I mean, so
I
309
wanted
is
to
a part of
make,
the Quran.
yeah, I wanted to make a point, brother, and then I'm gonna ask. Yeah, so I wanted to ask. We can talk about that. That's my question. But then you said instead of technical things, then I was
No,
thinking,
actually,
okay,
that's not what I
yeah.
meant. Uh,
Oh, okay,
no, I mean,
yeah,
like sometimes we get
yeah.
into technicalities, what that's what I mean by technical, like sometimes
Mm-hmm,
we may get caught up in definitions, or I've seen.
mm-hmm,
I'm not talking about particularly in our study, but I mean in general. Like sometimes
mm-hmm,
when we read verses, like we may get caught. Like we're talking about the historical part of it, which is important, right? But let's
mm-hmm,
say if the entire study we continue to talk about the timeline and what happened at a certain time and what they did,
mm-hmm,
but maybe we want to keep it balanced
mm-hmm,
too, so we also can learn like the moral side of why it's
mm-hmm,
important and what we learn from it.
mm-hmm,
Like after discussing it at length, like it's fine to discuss them, right? So
mm-hmm,
after discussing them at length, like I was saying right now, let's focus on what we learn from these things, because
mm-hmm,
there's a lot of lessons in this. So we
mm-hmm,
talked about the technicalities, we talked about the history, we talked about timeline, like we talked about the currency, all these things, which is
mm-hmm,
good information for us, right? But
mm-hmm.
how does them, for example, turning
From
sides, or like what kind of currency they had, it doesn't directly tie into your soul growth, directly, I'm saying, right? It doesn't directly tie into your
mm-hmm,
soul growth. So I said,
mm-hmm,
let's also talk about the moral side of things, like what we learned from this, like how
mm-hmm.
God put them, for example, like even let's talk about the 309 years, right? So like for example, I could say, mashallah, they stayed for 309 years. So praise be to God. I mean, this shows that God is omnipotent, that God can do this. For example, I'm just giving an example, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I meant. Like, let's talk about those things as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. But
Not saying
the
that what we
message,
discussed so far was wrong,
yeah, I
and
totally
definitely if
agree.
you want to talk about 309 years, I mean, that's part of the Quran.
Yeah.
That's exactly what God is telling us. The
Yes,
miracle, like you said, that's also part of the
yes,
Quran that helps us to know
yes.
that the Quran is from
Yeah,
God, and increase. So no,
yeah,
no disagreement.
Yeah, and one of the things, brother, you know, if you remember the message of the covenant, for example, yeah, he says, you know, when you eat an apple, don't eat just an apple. You know, you like to remember God, how it's created, how it came to existence, the colors, and all those things.
Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons, like when we focus on those certain things, it's basically what I understand from it are two things. One is appreciation, and not to take it granted. You know, like every information that God gives us. Yeah, I'm sorry, for granted. Yeah. So every information that God gives us, that I see in a way, okay, we need to think a little, because God also tells us there are many signs and very important things to learn for people who use their minds, you know, who think about it, etc. And like, and one of the other things is like, since there are also other brothers and sisters that are listening, and you know, I want to maybe talk more about the 300 plus 9, more about end of the world, how the measure of the with the
Yeah, that's
signs, you
totally
know.
fine. I mean, we
Yeah.
should talk about them. Yeah. I mean, if you have any comments or questions about 309 years, you know, I mean, of course, that's part of what we're reading today. So we
Yeah.
should talk about it. You know, definitely.
hmm But I understand your point, brother. That really makes sense. Sometimes we can, you know, talk a lot of go into these details.
Yeah, yeah. Like, you know, I was
I
talking
think
about the
understand.
true
maybe
Bible
they
and stuff.
yeah, like they're more important. I mean, I don't think there's many Christians listening because I mean, you know, a Christian is going to listen, but I think like it is crucial. Uh, Maybe not in these, not to dwell on or go into it too in depth, but I mean that's how I think. I mean that's how myself like before becoming a submitter actually like following the Christianity that Jesus taught was understanding these facts and technicalities about Paul and stuff. So I mean for people who listen in the future and stuff, that's where like my passion comes in when explaining these things because this is uh I mean these are facts and these are like things once you I mean for people who are on the wall or that's not the right term but are on the fence.
People who are on the fence.
Yeah, on the fence. You know, I read the walls this morning. I think that's why I was like thinking about that. I was thinking about the walls a lot this morning, like Surf 49. But
Oh, I see.
yeah, I was thinking about.
Well, I mean, it can be a wall.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes
but like, yeah, I mean, I don't really think, but I mean, it's a good point because like sometimes I'm really passionate about this stuff because of how why I think like a lot of Christians get so hung up on their idol word, even when you give them the message of submission. But you know, at the end of the day, like the big takeaway there, I should have kind of like Suleiman said, like we should. What can we learn from this? Well, Satan is always after you know humanity, and he won't stop. I mean, even after the message seemingly gets delivered and it well not seemingly like the message gets delivered and things are seemingly okay, Satan will move right in with very convincing and elusive tactics and like eloquent people, you know, like Paul, whether it's Paul or you know the people after Muhammad and the people yeah and even these submitters who came after the messenger who are blaspheming and like deep, you know. I mean, so like this is, I think I should have summarized like the lesson here is like not to let our guard down and don't be so captivated by like. I mean, you know, it's real simple. What does the Quran say? What does God say? You know, in the Quran, and we just follow that. You know, we don't listen to if anybody says anything different. We don't listen to them. You know, because then you would make them your God. That's all. Mashallah.
Yeah, maybe we can go to 1829. This is also very interesting, you know, about the freedom of religion. Share more thoughts about that part? Because it's mostly misunderstood, right? About when it comes to Islam, people think they are not free, and there are so many things that if you don't pray, you're going to be stoned until death. You know, that type of things.
Right, that comes from my Hadith, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
mean, this is a good verse 29. We're free to. I mean, really, this is. I think you had mentioned it in the study. We all have the freedom of choice that we would pass the test with
Yeah, what
flying
I
colors.
Mhm. Yeah, what I'm interested in is mostly not the individual part actually. I'm more interested. Maybe we can talk about the part where, let's say, we have a society, and in this society we have like a government, a country. There's the government, and then of course anyone can believe in anything that they want, but there should be certain limits for what people can do if it will affect. For example, if someone promotes their own religion or their own thoughts about multiple, like for example, transgenderism, like homosexuality, that type of stuff. I understand there should be the freedom. People need to make their own choices, and the message of the covenant, for example, talks about homosexuality, that we need to talk them out of it. We need to tell them that this is wrong, it can't be, and then we have our children going to school. If this person is one of the teachers, for example, like what should we do at that moment? I don't know. Like I'm trying to understand
I never.
how this would
I
work.
always. I'll take a firm stance on that. Like I always have. That leave the kids are there to go to school to learn about science, geology, leave their perverted teachings because the parent isn't there to defend their kids. The parent, and a lot of times what has been happening in the United States at least is the teachers and the school boards won't tell like the parents the kids are being like pumped with all types of this stuff in children's books and stuff, and it isn't until later that the parents find out. you know so I mean it's they're free to like I think stand outside and have their little uh meetings and stuff, but as far as like infiltrating, I mean in the same way you wouldn't want like people, I guess, going in your home or going into school and telling people to worship Jesus or Muhammad. So
Yeah, like how should we? Okay,
I
I
mean, if
don't
they're
know.
doing that, just
Is it
take them out of
irrelevant? Like,
just
okay,
take them out of school. I think because then they're forcing. You get to a point where it becomes they're forcing their religion on you almost. Because if you're there, like if you go like to driving school and they start teaching you how to make bombs or like how to shoot guns or something or not even that or just how to swim, you know. Or do this and like, well, I didn't come here to learn about that. I came here to learn how to drive. I mean, it's the same thing. People now, I mean, they're free to even have like make their own schools if they want to make a whole school, I think, of teaching their religion and transgender, and that's fine. That's perfectly good. But as far as like the devil is like infiltrating institutions that otherwise should be neutral. You should have we have an expectation there that you're just going to be taught about the curriculum, and you're not going to. I mean, in the same way you wouldn't like in the same way teachers shouldn't be promoting like Jesus or idol worship in the workplace, because it could disturb. I mean, there's actually laws against this too. Like you can't. I mean, they can talk about it amongst themselves, but like when it gets to a point when they start teaching it and like pumping it, which is part of their agenda and protocol, and the Zionists are behind this too. I'll say that. Then I mean, the best we can do is boycott, and I think. But a lot of students have come home like they're showing like, I mean, it's horrible things I've seen in these children's books. Like it's almost ties into like some of the stuff we're seeing on cover, like in the United States and the government and these Epstein files. Like they're teaching these kids. I've seen videos of like parents in school board meetings getting enraged because like they find out their kids are being shown like pictures of like just disturbing pictures of these children's books and talking about, I mean, sexual things and like perversions and stuff, and then the parents have no idea. You know, it's kind of like if your kid goes on a playground and then a guy comes up to them and like starts telling them like, you know, how to cook drugs and stuff. I mean, you're not going to be okay with this, you know, especially, you know. But I think if you're, I mean, it's common sense. I think like when it comes to that.
Yeah, so I want to know, like, for example, is it an irrelevant question since we don't have a government like a submission, like you know, submitters government maybe. The messenger talks about it, right? And then there are
Right.
certain.
Well, I mean, like people. I think. I mean, people should leave school stuff to being school stuff. Just like when you go to work. I mean, it's gonna be work stuff. I mean, people can talk amongst themselves and stuff, but like, if you work, I mean, does this answer your question? Because it's basically. I mean, because really, what they're doing is they're promoting Satan in some type of way, and obviously, like it can be tricky sometimes because you can think about it like, well, I mean, people, and I mean, I believe this too. I mean, people should be allowed to if they want to have statues, of, you know, or these satanic churches. Okay, that's your thing, but like if your religion starts to become where you know you have to like start killing 5 birds every month. I mean, that's like that starts to cross the line. Like you can't, because now you're committing acts of you're oppressing, you're hurting others. You know, but you know, people's religion should not affect others.
Yeah, circumcision, for example, brother. Like if
That's a perfect example.
Mhm.
That's literally
like let's say we are in charge, and then there is a group of people, they are Sunnis and they have their children, they want to do circumcision, but we as a government, we need to like protect the children who can't protect themselves, right? But so this doesn't, so when we talk about freedom of religion, like where does this stand, you know? You understand what I mean? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
So you know, for example, um, you can read appendix, the one that says "What price a great nation?" Right. So, mashallah, this is an interesting question, and I think the answer is not to me like it's not as straightforward. Just because I came across some things, but hold on. So this
Yeah,
is what
what I
price
would
a
think,
great
like,
nation.
oh, okay, it's okay.
Appendix 36, right? So it says, for example, maximum freedom for the people, freedom of religion. So if someone if you allow them to freedom of religion, right, and then they're saying that, well, this part of our religion, then you have to give them the freedom to do that, right? Now you can't mandate it on every person. Obviously, like they can't say, "Oh, we want it for the entire country." No, if you are a Muslim, you identify as a Muslim or a Sikh, then you should be able to do your rituals. God says, "Believe or disbelieve," right?
But the kid
And
hasn't
but
a religion.
no, but they can say it's part of their religion that they have to get their kids, you know,
But
done this, right?
is it not our job as government to protect children?
No, I mean if you stop them, they'll do it in their homes, and then it's more dangerous. You know, they'll go call the hairdresser, and he will
do
do
they
it.
really do this?
They do
Yes.
that. Yeah, that's what they do.
Yes, yes.
That's what they used to do before. You know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know, it's interesting that you talk about, you know, because like in the
Or the
Mormons,
or the
like they
butcher.
beat, they torture, and like there was this huge thing that came out with one of these ladies. They were locking up their kids in closets, and like it was actually their way of parenting. Like it was part of their religion. I mean, I forget her name. She was a blonde lady. She was like Suleiman. I think we might have. This was like back in 23, I think. But yeah, she treated her kids so horrible, and it was literally the way she was. She actually had a big parenting channel, and eventually she got exposed, and she's like facing prison time. She's so popular, but it's like you have to intervene at some point. Like when it becomes psychologically or physically damaging, that's when like you actually see like, okay, your religion or not, like this is you know. Like you can't like say like go kill your neighbor's pets and then just say, oh no, my religion dictates that I have to once a month I have to take the life of my neighbor's pets and that's gonna be okay. Like no.
Or like killing black dogs, for example,
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
from hadith.
Are you serious? Wow. Okay.
Yes, yes. Killing black dogs, killing um what was it? Scorpions is
Scorpion.
also, yes, killing scorpions. If you kill 100 scorpions in a month or something like that, you are not gonna end up in hell. This is one of the.
Where did Brother Suleiman go?
Maybe he was forced to go out because he's in Turkey. That would be so crazy.
What time is it there?
So 2 hours different from here. It's almost 9 here. There it would be around 11 o'clock.
Oh, I keep thinking you're in Turkey for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I keep, but you're in the Netherlands.
Yes. Well,
But I think it's because you visited Turkey in the past. That's why.
you visited Turkey?
No, no, no. You visit Turkey occasionally, and I hear about
Yes, yes,
it. Okay.
yes.
Like, okay.
God willing, in May we will go again, and then in the summer holidays we always go there because of family, and we have also space there, etc. So, but Suleiman likes it too, right? He also goes a lot to Turkey, despite the taxi drivers.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we also have there's no compulsion in religion, so and people are free to.
Yeah.
I
For
think when
example,
they start
selling.
transgressing the limits,
Yeah. For example, selling alcohol. You like the okay right now, and I'm thinking like, is it irrelevant? But then there will be a moment when submitters gonna have their own government. Especially after 2029, when the world is going to accept submission. Like, but then it's gonna change in time as well. So what do you do with people who want to sell alcohol? You know,
Kill
if
them.
they have a store, what?
No, joking.
What did you do again?
I said we kill him.
Oh man. Uh, and yeah, like certain people will are gonna wanting to buy it, and if it's prohibited and or it's it's if you make it against the law, then they are going to produce in secrets, and then it's gonna be more disastrous, because when you do that, then people are going to die, because then they are not going to follow certain rules on how to prepare it, right? Like how to
people.
deal with it. And I remember one of the things, brother, I remember we spoke about it, me as a construction company doing a renovation for a coffee shop, where they sell drugs, weed and drugs, that type of certain things. So are we going to then help them and then give them the opportunity to do it properly? Like, isn't that against our way of practicing the religion?
I mean, if they want to, build, if they're submitters and they're building their places full of alcohol, I mean, they're just hypocrites. So
No, but they are not. They are, let's say, atheists, and they want to.
they might.
Drink.
They'll probably just go out of business. But I don't think that something like that should be interfered. Because then, I mean, it doesn't. You also like people who want to drink are still going to find it one way or another. I mean, it's the same thing. Like they're just making it more easily accessible. But
Yeah. Like the same counts for the circumcision. Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to have these hospitals where we're going to let all these people do their thing? And then, but doesn't that, won't that be against our understanding of helping them out with doing that certain bad thing? Because right now, what we
I mean, you
have,
would hope that people like are not gonna like these hospitals that would do this are gonna lose business, go out of business. So, well, the people, I mean, they're gonna be shunned. I mean, just as the idol worshippers, I think, if we look at the Quran, how the idol worshippers were free to idol worship, believe or disbelieve, but I mean, eventually um, you don't want to force them, to follow the right way. But I mean, if they're sitting there and like beating their kids and stuff, I mean, you have to, yeah, you're going to intervene. Or I mean, if they're doing all types of terrible things in these hospitals, yeah, the hospital will get shut down by the government. Um, I mean, you can, So what's your what exactly you are asking?
yeah, like, um, so you have these people, they want to do circumcision, and Suleiman went off. But if you don't give them the opportunity to do circumcision in a hospital where it's sterile and where a doctor is involved, then they are gonna do this at home, and it's going to be more dangerous, right? You're gonna end up having people killing their own children while doing the circumcision. So when you are in charge as a submitters group, you are in charge, yeah, and you decide what type of laws you are going to imply in the country. Um, like how does that work with freedom for religion? I understand if people want to do certain things for themselves, I quite understand it. But then, aren't you then helping them with something that the devil has invented, like circumcision? Like you're helping them, you're making it easier for them. Of course, you can place posters where you
Yeah, I
say
see what you're
circumcision is
saying.
bad. Like we definitely don't agree with this.
Yeah,
This
I
is
mean,
wrong.
I wouldn't allow you probably don't allow these satanic practices. If a hospital is I mean, because when you really get down to it, it's I mean, if somebody wants to do this in the privacy of their home and mutilate themselves, let them. You do not intervene. But like when it's in a public space, I think and yeah, you don't support these people. Uh, of course, and I mean, if they're uh, I think the world, like eventually when they wake up to the con regarding circumcision and who it was started by. I mean, it's a pagan practice. Most people I think aren't going to want to do it. I mean, and the people that are going to do it, uh, I mean, the hospitals aren't gonna. Um, I don't see any hospitals wanting to practice this.
It's a crime.
Yeah, I mean it's a crime against the children. Like if a person wants to do it to themselves, you can't. I don't think you should. You should intervene because then you would like. I mean, this is kind of but like when they're inflicting pain against somebody's will that doesn't have a decision in this just because of their pain. Like that's when I think you would need to shut the whole operation down. I mean, in the same way, like when you shut like a child trafficking operation down. Put I mean in the same way CPS gets involved with abuse of children. I mean it's the same thing. I mean imagine if a complete stranger, the doctor would be in this case, came into your house and just came running after your kid and started cutting at his genital parts. I mean, what would you'd probably. I mean, at least the part of the United States where I'm from. I mean, a lot of people would end up, uh, taking the life of that doctor out of self defense or at least restraining him until he goes to prison. But I mean, in the same way, I mean, but if they wanted to do that to themselves, then that's I think
Yeah,
that's okay.
and one of the things that we would do probably, brother, is like to have these debates. Debates on TV, debates on certain places where everyone can ask questions and talk about it. And then, because for example, homosexuality, the Messenger of the Covenant says you need to talk them out
Talk
of it,
about
right?
it, right?
Like this, I think the same thing counts about circumcision. Like we can have all these discussions, we can talk with them, we can have all these debates, and most probably one of the things that humans have is to follow the, how do you say this, the crowd, do you say the crowd or the
Group,
um
group thing for social
yes,
pressure.
yeah, like if you debate this, and then put all these evidences to show them that this is wrong, it's bad, etc., with all that type of stuff, and if people start noticing that it's really wrong, maybe it's gonna make it more easier. Or the same goes for homosexuality. That because there's a reason why the messenger said this, right? Like that we need to talk them out of it. And this doesn't imply only for homosexuality. I believe this counts for everything which is prohibited in submission. Everything, like also alcohol or gambling or prostitution or name it. It doesn't matter. Uh, we should talk them out of it. And while doing this, what I think is you cannot prohibit it, right? Like, for example, alcohol. If they want to produce and drink alcohol, they are allowed to do that. But we definitely would have all these opportunities or all these moments where we try to talk them out of circumcision, out of drinking alcohol, and setting a good example, right? I remember watching a video where there is this city in USA, a small city, a town. I don't know exactly, but this was a town which was very in a bad condition. You had all these people. You had people who were drinking, and the streets were very dirty, and it was a very bad community. And then the Muslims started living in that area, and they started, they don't, most of them, they don't drink alcohol and that type of stuff, right? And they're mostly, they try to be clean. So there was this person who already lived in that town, and then she basically said like it was a mess here, and they came now. The streets are clean. They don't drink alcohol. They don't gamble. They are like more peaceful than Of course, I'm not comparing this with the extremists in certain countries, but this shows that when a community changes, it affects so many things, right? And if you set a good example, maybe people would follow more and stop drinking, or you would have a certain atmosphere, a certain way of living in that area that it would make it very difficult for them to do these certain things.
Yeah, so I had a question about that, Brother Jeffrey. So you said this was it like a documentary or something you said?
Which one? Which part?
The one about the Muslims came in and they
Oh no,
changed
this was
the
I saw it was on a news, and then they were asking this woman, and then
which
she was
news?
saying it was like USA News. This was some time ago. There was this town, brother, and this was like a town where there was a lot of drug addicts.
I find it yeah, I find it hard to believe because I mean, just knowing how a lot of these people are, I mean, they're not most of the so-called Muslims, like they're not even practicing Muslims, like um so I don't maybe they're different kind of Muslims, I don't know, but like I haven't seen but anyways, I mean maybe I don't know, like I just me personally like I have to like we have so many different news channels here, and every
Oh, okay.
channel is like especially right now, like everybody's has their own version of what's happening in the news, and depending on who's giving you the news, I mean, you you get a different message.
Yeah, it was
But
funny. But
anyways,
yeah, I don't. I was gonna go off
yeah,
topic, but I didn't. It was. I wasn't. I'll stop.
no, it's okay. I mean,
Well, no, me and Suleiman were eating. I didn't know this, but like, I'm glad he told me. But like, we were eating in this nice restaurant. I think it was a Pakistani, and like, this was I think when they went to war with India. And I was on the news, and I was like, "Oh man, wow, look at this going on!" And then Suleiman told me, "It's like, no, like they're, how they they try to promote, like, oh, that they're doing this, and when if you look at the other side, they're saying a different thing. So
Yeah, the
it can be
Indian news
pretty.
media was saying that they won, and the Pakistani news media was saying
Yeah, yeah, they're like pretty biased and stuff. So you're not really sure,
they
you know.
won.
Actually, I've seen it in real life, brother Sulaiman. Um,
Uh huh.
when I moved from one city in Holland to Amsterdam,
Uh
uh,
huh.
19 years old or 18 years old,
Uh huh.
the neighborhood, in that neighborhood, there were lots of coffee shops,
Uh
and
huh.
after a few years, they opened the mosque there, a pretty small mosque, and then
Uh
after
huh.
years, the mosque became bigger and bigger, and then
Mm.
one coffee shop closed his door, and then another coffee shop closed his door, and then after like 12 years I lived there, the whole neighborhood
Mhm.
was changed. Lots of junkies and lots of there was also crime and this and that, and it went really low. So I have seen that with
Mhm.
my own eyes. That was a little bit, yeah. I was,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have seen the opposite because, I mean, while like maybe drinking
but
and
but
drugs are,
sorry to
you know, while
the
no,
but
go ahead.
also there was another point with it. There came also extremism in that area. So guys went
Yes.
more radicalized and
Exactly. Yes.
so
Yeah,
that
that was the point I was coming to because that's what I have seen in my own neighborhood where I grew up, and like it was a very good neighborhood. It was like the most posh, the most expensive neighborhood. Most people were very educated, and then we had this big mosque that opened up there and radicalized everybody over the period of like less than 20 years that I was there, and we saw like people becoming radicalized, and
yeah
women started wearing headscarves, and it
yeah
just
yeah
all went backwards. And
and
of course, like this is a point now that I mean, I wouldn't feel safe like if I was to be there as a submitter. Just being in that neighborhood, I wouldn't feel safe there because, and especially because I received death threats from the same people in my neighborhood that were influenced by those mosques or were attracted to the neighborhoods because of those mosques. So like I see some positive stuff coming like on the surface maybe, but there could
yeah
be other reasons why those coffee shops close. Maybe but either way, like uh, I just think it's personally, I don't think that it's like I think like I wouldn't promote like it's kind of promoting, to me. Like I know it's not directly what we're trying to do, right?
yeah
But we're talking about Mohammedans here, right? We're talking about people who are hardcore idol worshippers who are not following the Quran, right? So to me, like this is kind of in a way sort of praising them. And it's a mistake we made, not intentional, right? But I've seen a lot of people do that. Like, for example, we're in this WhatsApp group uh, with the people that we congregate with here locally in Sacramento, right? And they're posting videos, for example, of people turning into becoming Muslims. Like, they're becoming traditional Muslims. And, like, there's, like, showing videos of, oh, like, their lives changed, they became Muslims, they turned to Islam. I mean, we're not uh, from those people, right? And we condemn them. So, like, I personally find it difficult when I see people like
Wait,
saying
they're promoting videos of people who are basically
like
becoming
one person,
Mohammedans or something.
yeah,
Or
like
what?
yeah. I mean, like one person saying, "Oh, I became Muslim and it's so great," and people were saying all these things and all the answers are there. And this guy
But
became a
they're not a
Muslim. He changed.
submitter. Like they're wait,
No, they're
they're
not Samana. They changed their names and everything to Arabic names.
and
Just
they're
I don't
they
think
just
it's.
go from yeah, they just go from one idol worship. You know?
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah,
That's like
Coca Cola. Yes. Yeah, no, just one. Thank you. They just go from one idol worship
one
to
idol worshiper,
the
right?
other. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was this guy, Yusha Evans. It was the same thing. Like until we found out, my dad found out he worked. He left Christianity and I've never even talked about him until now because I'm not gonna like promote this guy unless he comes into submission because he's still following Satan. You know, it's like you're
Mm-hmm.
trading. He is knowledgeable like when it comes to the Christian the falsehood in Christianity, but like he just traded. That's actually something like me and my dad discussed years ago. Like he's just trading. Uh, he's still trapped. You know, like he's just trading
Mm-hmm.
one idol.
Yeah.
He's just trading one idol for another because he's following all these hadiths and sunnahs, and like, well, there's nothing honorable or noble or praiseworthy
Yeah.
because it's.
Yeah.
I think it's
I mean, let's say like maybe they don't drink, which they do drink, but maybe they don't like to drink in those places. Maybe they like to go to high end clubs and party and have women and all those things, right? So that's one thing, right? Because they do all those things, right? And then the other thing is like, while let's say there's maybe less crime because they're wealthy, or they have jobs. But what about all the idol worship and the extremism and the oppression against women? So it's just like it's
That
really like
comes afterwards. Yeah, that comes
no, it's like
afterwards.
but
When
it's
they
like
take
a one-sided
power.
story. But it's like a one-sided story that obviously the news is not gonna
Mm,
cover. Like they want their
mm.
headlines. Maybe who knows? Like you know, the motive
Yeah,
behind.
because they can't do certain things because they're not in
Hmm.
power, right? They can't
Hmm.
force non-believers to do certain things. So
Hmm.
they seem to be nice in the beginning, and then afterwards, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Muslims here. I don't know. They may be better, but I've heard the. But I mean, people
Well, the
do talk
messenger
them.
said they're only better because this is a civilized country, and they know if they get out of line,
Hmm.
they're gonna get in big
Yeah,
trouble. You know,
There was this guy, what Danny mentioned, in the same society.
especially
He
now.
was, yeah, he was
right?
promoting hadith and reading hadith books in all these masjids. So there was this guy. He asked him about homosexuality. You know what he basically said? He said, "Listen, in the Quran, God says that they are going to burn, so we need to burn them alive."
Hmm.
Yeah, so I
Oh
think,
my god.
Oh
so I
my god!
think when this guy comes into power, he's gonna burn them alive.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a lot of radical Christians that have these radical ideas, right? But the thing is, I mean, we know as submitters, like this what the right way is. And, I mean, anyways, when I just look at these news, I don't even pay attention to this stuff, but we know that it's worse for them. Like they have the Quran, for example, and then they decided to follow all this conjecture and stuff instead of becoming submitters. And you know that if, for example, the Arabs, which a lot of them would also be from the Middle East, right? But if even if they're not from other countries, they're still practicing idol worship and bringing those things along with it too, right? So unless some they're following God's law, unless they're following the Quran like in its entirety, like I even if they're good things, like I just can't swallow it. Maybe it's my own personal weakness, but because we know other things, right? We know those other things that they
We
do
knew
too.
that their
You know?
true faces.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even myself, like, I have to be careful sometimes, bro. I'm glad you talked about this because sometimes, like, so you remember? Okay, this is a good example. I'm glad you talked. Remember before we moved to Texas, I was telling you, I'm like, oh yeah, a
Hmm.
lot of the. Then this is before like a lot of extremism happened. I was like, yeah, like it's pretty laid back. A lot of the Christians like
Hmm.
they're
They're very kind.
yeah, they're very kind, and I mean, okay, yeah, if there are, and they'll like, but like
Yeah.
I said, I'm in a way, I even at the time I thought I was like, yeah, I need to not do that because like I'm still, even if like they're not being kind to themselves, they're really not being kind to others if you think about it because they're promoting Jesus.
Yeah. Hmm.
And if
But the
they
thing is,
convince somebody, they're going to end up, going
hmm,
to a terrible
yeah.
place together. So it's like, is that really kind? I mean,
But the thing is, the Quran does talk about their kindness.
right,
So
yeah, that's true.
it's not
Right.
it's not it's not
That's
that
what I was
far off.
kind of hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, what I was getting at, like they won't kill you, they won't even fight you. They'll actually like come hug you and then just tell you need to believe in Jesus and leave you be.
Or feel sorry
You
for you,
know, yeah, it feels like I've had them feel sorry for me, and they're very
or
nice,
cry
but
for
they just
you.
yeah they'll cry, yeah they'll pull out their little notebooks like and try to show me some things. Yeah, it literally happened to.
Like, I'll pray for you,
Uh,
brother.
yeah, exactly. Yes, I mean, like you're safe in that way, so I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's something I think
Yeah, but I mean, all of the thing
for
is
us
like
to
some
think
of them
about.
are. Yeah, but the thing is like I think some of them are really kind, right? But not all of them. There's a lot of
Right?
people that have the face of kindness, like on the
Yeah, they're
outside,
very right. They're very evil.
wicked
Like a lot
people.
of hypocrites in the churches. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Like they're very bad people. Like I hear from my sister, like stories she's told me
Mhm.
of like some of these like leaders in their churches. Like this one lady. And then like, oh, she's telling me the way she's treating my sister at her job, and I mean, my sister's going to church and doing all that, but she's very
Mhm.
nice and kind. And I'm like, man, you need to like leave that place. Like, I mean, how is she even like reopening the Bible and then
Mhm.
acting like this, saying these things, and so yeah, there's a lot of that that
Mhm.
goes on. But then, like you said, there are some very kind people and
Mhm.
good-hearted people.
Yeah,
But
that's why God
God
says the
willing, these
Christians are
these
the
these
closest
people will
friends.
become submitters.
Mhm. Yeah, and they will, like when the submission
They
comes,
will.
I'm
Yeah,
sure one of these people will.
yeah. Like their hearts are kind of already prepared. Like when they
Hmm.
finally get the
Hmm.
message, they're gonna naturally accept it. They're gonna like it.
Yeah, yeah. They have priests and monks among them, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
That's what God says in the Quran. But like, yeah, they have other professional religionists that they
right,
idolize, and then they do
right.
all kinds of crimes and stuff.
Yeah, take the people's money.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, nothing, nothing equates a true believer who worships God alone. At the end of the day, I mean, on the surface, all these people may have some good qualities, but they have a lot of evilness that isn't very apparent. Like, uh, from outside, appearances, God says, can be deceiving. There's people who we were talking earlier about people saying inshallah and mashallah. Actually, I wanted to comment on that because
Mhm.
a lot of these people, at least from my own experience, right? Like there may be some people righteous. I don't put everybody in the same category, but a lot of those people will use those words to deceive people and to appear righteous. That's what God says, don't take God's name in vain. So it's really their intentions behind why they're saying it, right? If people are genuinely saying it because of God, or if they're saying it, for example, to show off or to appear righteous, that happens a lot, which is why God says, don't take God's name in vain. They may appear righteous to gain credibility among the people.
Yeah, very true.
It's a habit as well, not because they are righteous or because it's because they are used to,
Hmm.
because you're used to say it. When you say,
Hmm.
for example, Bismillah, I even know people who, for example, they are no believers, they are non-believers, but they were so used to, from their childhood, to say it all the time. Even if they don't believe in God,
Hmm.
they still say Bismillah, for example. But they don't mean it.
Yeah, but that makes them hypocrites.
Yeah,
Most
Mhm. Yeah,
like
because they're not thinking about it. Like
yeah.
like
they're swearing. Like I swear on this, I swear on that.
Hmm.
Oh,
like wallahi or something. I used to hear that from
Yeah,
this guy.
yeah, like the Middle East, yeah, like the Arabs and
He
stuff.
was he's from Lebanon. He was an Arab.
Hmm.
He used to be wallahi.
Brother, just about the Christian and Russian Orthodox Christian.
Orthodox? What do you mean?
No, I asked Brother John because he knows lots of about the Christianity. I was just wondering what do you think about the Christians and on the other part of the world, like Russia.
they're all I don't know. They're
West, you
I
know.
mean, you're either Protestant or you fall into Catholicism or Protestant, and it's like. But I mean, I don't think they all end up worshiping Jesus. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
Putin.
even like other groups of people, like I mean, you see, they all end up following. I don't know, like that's why I was like very flabbergasted that Brother Joshua actually met a Christian, and I'm still wanting him to get more information because the only people I've seen online that actually still follow Jesus' teachings, just as like the messenger laid out, they're very few. Like you will not. Uh, I mean, they're and I'm not trying to like exalt them or something. It's just more of the face of how prevalent I. The same thing with the submitters, like, I mean, who are even better in a way. Like we have a bit more growth because we have the contact prayers. These people don't have the contact prayers; they just have snacks. But yeah, I mean, in Russia, I mean, they're extremists there too. They're. I mean, it's a communist country. It's there's a lot of anti Christianity there too, but I mean, there's really no Christianity that exists. I mean, that I'm aware of today, except just like on a small scale that worships God alone. But I don't know if that
Yeah, I know.
answers your question.
I think I heard that Putin was a Catholic.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if he was a Catholic, he's not even. He's really. I highly doubt that. It's the same thing with Trump because like these people. If you look into a lot of the Russians, like there are a lot of from these Khazar origins. I mean, if you they're a lot of them are from not that their origins matter, but if you look at uh like some of the most horrendous crimes that are being committed in the Middle East amongst the Arabs, the Jews. I mean, you actually if you find a lot of the people in Russia are Bolshevik Jew descendants, Khazars. Like it's and not that this like you can't say like these people are righteous, but it's interesting because it's talked about in the Quran about like what they blaspheme and other things, and I mean they're mentioned a lot. And then the point I guess I was trying to make here before I kind of digressed was like if they say they're a Catholic, they're really I don't buy it. Like there's just I really think they worship Satan, whether it's indirectly or directly. Um, I mean, you can't like spend billions in like the cause of evil and oppression and say like you follow Jesus or something. That's just my 2 cents. Though.
Were
Yeah, I
the
think.
people of the cave,
Um,
the people of the
oh, go
cave
ahead, brother.
messengers or prophets would, or they were just regular people? I mean, like were they prophets or messengers?
I think they were just regular believers. They and I guess you could say they were just believers
Oh,
who stood up. You know.
sorry.
Okay.
I was on mute. I was like, why is everybody talking to me?
Oh, no, brother, we would never ignore it. We don't.
Yeah. Yes, I was saying. Yeah. Yeah, I was. No, I know. So I was saying, it says that 67% of the population in Russia they self-identify as Orthodox, uh, but there's actually 2 million Protestants and 3,500 registered organizations, and there's roughly 600,000 Catholics, and it says there's 500,000 to a million people who follow 17th century traditionalist branch. And then there's like 11 to 13% people only that are atheists. So, but it says
So there's a
only
lot of
2 to
lot of
10%. Yeah, there's a lot of Christians. But you know,
Yeah,
if you look at like the prevalent view that people look at Russians, they think of atheism right away,
yeah.
you know, because of the secularism.
I think too
But
because of the communism, because like communism is
communism,
always followed. Yeah, it's heavily like communism, fascism, socialism, fascism. They're really all the same, but like they're always anti-God. Like if you look at Karl Marx, I think that's what we were taught. I think growing up in school, uh, like the communism in Russia and stuff is. But yeah, maybe I mean these people could become submitters too at some point. But usually I find like the more, I mean, well, not always, but like the more orthodox, I mean, some of these Christian factions can be like the Mormons and Pentecostals and stuff. They're kind of the wilder their practices can sometimes are more extreme. They can be like this one group of people I know they don't allow TVs in their house. And then I think the husband only has a cell phone because in order for his work, and they're very nice people actually. I told Suleiman about them a while back. I've had dinner with them before, but I debated with him, and I said, well, it's a it's a tool. You can use it for good or for bad. You can listen to the scripture. You can make songs about God. Listen to songs about instead of prohibiting these things. And I don't really remember what he said, but uh, anyway.
Yeah, but I've seen that in Russia they are against a lot of, I mean, this Orthodox people. They're, for example, against, and in the West here, they're allowing homosexuality, for example, and, this gender thing, and all of these things what we just spoke about. But in the Orthodox, they are not allowing it. You know what I mean? So they're two different Christians. I see. At least in the West, they say they are Christian, but they are not. Totally not. Uh, and I know both is wrong, but you know what I mean?
It started recently. Like you used to not really see that in America until I think recently. Like as people wanted to be more accommodating and gain more followers and stuff, and give into pressures and stuff and gain more people. It's a big money thing because like these churches that like Joel Osteen and a lot of these big mega churches that kind of even if they don't like there's some churches that will directly tell you yeah it's okay everything goes and there's a lot of other the mega ones will hint at it but don't directly say it and so everybody feels welcome and because they realize there's a lot of money to be made like in these orthodox ones I don't think there's as much like as a business, even though it still can be. So I think that's a big part. I mean, same thing like with the word of faith movement that we've seen recently, like starting. And if you look at who started it, yeah, it's all about taking the people's money illicitly. Brother Suleiman, you there? Brother Jaffa, Brother Madani.
Oh yeah, I was just listening, brother. I was reflecting.
Oh, mashallah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I think it was a good point. Like when we say these things,
testing,
I've even oh go
testing.
Suleiman,
Can you
you
guys,
back?
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, can you hear
Okay,
us?
okay. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I'm in Turkey, and they're playing country music. It's funny.
Oh wow.
Yeah. See, I don't know if they're playing because we're the only people here. And
Yeah, maybe they think you're country or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, it's funny.
They're being
Yeah,
accommodating.
yeah. Can you guys can't hear it probably because I have noise canceling headset. But I was gonna say this brings us back to the discussion we were having about freedom of religion, right? With the homosexuals, for example, right? And and I think probably discussed this before, but like the thing, especially the thing about the schools, right? So, for example, we have our kids and we're responsible for their upbringing, right? So, if the school, if any school here in the West or in the U.S., at least I know, they can't force these things on your children, like, and let's say if they have these stories and whatnot, I mean, you have the freedom to go to them and say to them that I don't want my child to be in this whatever activity, like hour that they want to promote things like that. You don't want them in that. In fact, like anything like that that directly goes against our religion. I mean, you could tell them that my religion doesn't approve of this, and I
Right.
don't want my child to be in these classes, and you can take them out. But what
That
you
actually
can't
happened
do.
to me when I was a kid.
Oh, what happened?
Well, I remember in elementary school, it was me and two other kids.
Hmm.
Uh, I think it was third or fourth grade. They were reading Harry Potter. I don't know if you've heard of
Hmm.
that. Which
Hmm.
is
Yeah, yeah.
basically it's just like it seems innocent and like I have friends and
The
stuff that
magic
like it a
stuff.
lot. Yeah, with the magic stuff and like
Hmm.
my mom or my parents took me out because they were doing like so it was just like for an hour a day. Me and two other kids were also on the same page, and we would go
Hmm.
read like Little House in the Prairie, like a
Hmm.
small country book in the
Hmm.
1800s in another teacher's classroom while they were reading.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
a lot of times it's gotten it's not the same as it was in the early 2000s. Like it's
Hmm.
gotten very forceful to the point where you almost have to take your kids out of school, which is fine. And then they won't tell, like you don't find out till later. And then the school boards are like very corrupt. And I mean, not all schools. Some schools are better than others, like with their transparency. But I mean, honestly, like if the kid is there to learn about social studies or history, like that's what they should keep it at. Like
Hmm.
keep everything else about out of it. Like there's no reason to interject this. Like if they want to, like there's no reason on the planet Earth to be teaching impressionable kids about this stuff. Like while the parents aren't there supervised, like they're there to go to. If the parents wants to put, I think their kids like in a homosexuality class or school. That's terrible, and that's the parents taking their kid out of God's kingdom. I mean, that's different, but like if you send your kids somewhere to be taught about school and then they run around behind your back and start teaching them, I think that's becomes forceful. That like crosses the line where they're forcing their religion on the children, and I guess indirectly on you because they're a part of you, or like they're
Right.
part of your family.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. And the point I was getting at also was like, for example, there were people among submitters like, and they were like promoting these videos on their groups on social media and stuff, and telling other submitters to join them. Where they were going against these groups and saying these groups should not be promoting these things like to our kids. I mean, of course, and it's not that they're promoting it to your kids. Of course, I mean you have the option not to have your kids in those, but they also, just like they can say otherwise. For example, they can say, we go to, for example, prisons and hospitals and schools to preach submission, and then they can say, you can't come to our schools or our hospitals and try to preach submission. Now, if if they want to go to schools and they want to preach these things, and parents who approve of these things, that there's all kinds of people in this world, and there's people who say, oh yeah, we want our kids to learn, that they don't find, oh, they whatever rubbish that they actually accept, right? I mean, if it's in accordance with their beliefs and they don't have any problem with it, like they may feel entitled to it. I mean, it's their freedom. at that point, right? But we have the freedom also to preach our religion. We have the freedom to preach our kids and to other kids. There's nothing stopping submitters from going to schools and start talking about, how God made us or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's actually really good. Like if we should start doing that in spite of their idol worship.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
instead of
that's a
going
good
and saying
idea.
no, they shouldn't be doing this, and we're going in the streets and protesting. And I remember one of the guys who's on the Discord, very active and all that, like promoting this video was this Canadian woman like shouting, like she was headscarving, shouting on top of her lungs, "Stop this thing for our kids! They cannot teach that." And like, yeah, wow, mashallah. He was directly praising that woman, and he's saying like, "Oh, mashallah, look at her, and we're more submitters. We should
Because she
join
had a
them."
headscarf.
Not
Mhm.
because she had a headscarf, but because she was like like shouting and yelling in front of everybody in the crowd, like kind of to me, which was looking very violent, scary.
Okay.
Like I when I look at women with headscarves, naturally, like it gives me a weird feeling. But like she was wearing a headscarf and stuff, and she was like yelling on top of her lungs, like she was protesting probably. But like the
I
video,
guess
I'd like to
it's
find it, find out.
yeah.
But it was just
It's
very. It's not a good representation of submission, for example. Like
oh no, of
you know,
course, yeah, of
so.
course. I mean, it's. I think it's like just it's. I mean, it's like when you see what you see like good and evil. I mean, of course, like naturally, we don't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when, and like, honestly, if people came up to me and thought they would not, I mean, like, if they, kept pestering me, I would say, leave me alone. Like, but if they, because I'm an adult and I have a mind, but like, it's when you're, I guess, targeting kids who are very impressionable that are not with their parents, and it's evil, like what they're promoting. It's not submission. It's not God's message. And I do understand, like, you have to be fair on both stances. You can't be like, because like the Christians really think that they're doing the right thing, and for a Christian to outlaw like people practicing Satanism or have any satanic churches, like as long as they're not doing like evil, like hurtful things to humans. I mean, people should be allowed to read their satanic Bibles and all that. I mean, that's their
Yeah,
religion,
yeah,
and that's
and
good.
we
But
can, yeah, and I mean we can promote submission. We can talk people out of homosexuality. We can say it's a sin, it's a learned
right,
behavior, etc., and
yeah,
spread
I think
awareness
that's
that way.
that's what we would need. That would actually be very good. Right.
Hmm.
We can hand out Quran submission, flyers and Qurans and stuff
Hmm.
to these
Hmm.
teachers and their students and
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah, and then if they say you can't preach this to our children, right, you can say, well, I mean, allowing them
Right,
to preach homosexuality, for example.
right, right.
I mean, but by law, like at least in the United States, I mean, we can do that. Like we can go to prisons, for example. We can give out Quran. We can talk to them about submission. We can go to old age homes, places like that,
I
or
guess
or
it's
other
like in,
systems.
in prison, you're not really like you're there because it's like, I mean, you could say it's still like a type of school or something, but uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, it's,
Oh, I
uh,
like this song.
yeah,
Sorry,
that's,
they're
that's,
playing
that's,
just country songs. It's so fun.
is it Turkish country songs or American?
No, no, American country songs.
Oh, who are they? Is it classic country? Or is it
Yeah, it's
new
like from
country?
the 2000s.
Oh, it might be, yeah, I would have to hear it. I can't really hear
Yeah.
it. I can kind of hear it though.
Mm-hmm. You can hear
That's
it?
pretty. I
Really?
can just you can kind of hear it a little bit.
Mm. If I put it on, I think if I turn off my Bluetooth, you'll probably hear it because, yeah. Oh no, this one is not country. This one is not country. Sorry, this is not country. This is not Michael Bublé. This is the other one.
Also, I'm gonna leave him, brother Martin.
Sorry.
Brother,
Anyways.
brother Martin, he needs to go.
Yeah, he needs to work tomorrow morning early.
Don't you work with him, brother? You can.
Yeah, he was just sending me a message. He said I need to go very
Let him
to
come
the
in late.
project. No, actually he can.
You're
Like he
the
has
boss.
all the
Yeah.
freedom, but we have also other companies and people coming in, and he needs to take
Right.
care. He needs to be there. So
So, how old are? I guess that's okay to ask. How
same
old?
age, of course.
Yeah,
He is around same age as I am,
Oh, okay,
but
cool.
he lives in not in the Netherlands. He lives in the border.
Oh.
Yeah, he needs to drive around 1.5 hours to come to the area where we mostly work.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
so
not too
that's why.
bad. I guess like yeah, Suleiman in the United States. That could be kind of normal.
hmm
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Like
For us,
people
it's pretty
people who
normal.
live outside the city. Yeah, like
he
often
likes to
traffic.
live quiet, and like the weather is a little bit better there. You have some certain mountains. In the Netherlands, we don't have mountains. Did you know? No mountains at all. Like it's a very flat country.
Hmm
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
mountains in Turkey, a lot of mountains.
In
You
Turkey,
enjoy
you
the
have
mountains here and go back.
yes, yes. Brother, one of the things I was mentioning, when we went to the holidays, I was
Hmm
like, and my wife noticed this afterwards when she came to the Netherlands. She said, I never would have guessed that I would miss the sight of mountains, looking at mountains. You
hmm
miss looking
Oh,
at
really?
mountains even. Yeah, really, brother. It's different. When everything is
Mm-hmm.
flat and you don't really see, because a mountain resembles also like a natural thing, right? In a country, it's the
Yeah.
nature of it. And if you don't have it, everything is flat, you don't really feel that you are in nature, like
hmm
it's quite, and
Yeah.
then you miss that feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I miss looking at mountains, even though like they're right outside. But
Oh
if I'm
really?
like inside, I'm lost. I miss the mountains. I want to go and see them.
Yeah,
Mashallah.
you
That's great.
get this feeling, like or going up, and then
Mm-hmm.
to a higher point
hmm
somewhere, and then looking at this. Yeah, you miss that sometimes here.
Yeah. You can. You can. Yeah. No. I'm just gonna. I was just gonna make
Yeah,
a joke.
you can make a joke, brother.
I was gonna say
You can
you can
jump.
take an elevator. You take an elevator to a building and come down.
uh, yeah, go up to a high building.
Take an escalator.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Uh,
Inshallah. Okay, so I guess if there are no other comments or questions, God willing, we can conclude our study. Thank you, Brother Jaffer, for leading the study, and thank you everyone
Inshallah.
for joining us. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Saturday. Would be on Tuesday at
Tuesday.
1 a.m. 1 p.m. Sorry, Pacific time. God
Yeah,
bless you all.
mashallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you all. Thank you, brothers.